Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome back to part 2 of why we play the game. This installment being when did fun become a 4-letter word. Today, I want to talk about role-playing and good role-playing and good people. I have always been a huge fan of people who can role-play really well. I've encouraged it. I've tried to do my best at it. You know, sometimes we're not perfect. We're humans after all, and you know, occasionally, you know, we'll slip out of character and you know, do the things that you know don't make role playing the best that it can be. Sometimes we're going to make those little mistakes. Sometimes we're going to play entire games completely out of character. Depending on the group. I've been in a lot of games where, there's been, a mixed bag of players with, good role players and, not so good role players. People who, quite honestly, don't even want to role play, which, since I was never the GM at those situations, it wasn't, really my call. I could do what I, thought best to try to encourage it, but that's not always going to be the case. When we're playing with our friends, the people we actually care about, the people we want in our lives, sometimes we'll, take the bad with the good, and I don't have a problem with that, unless I'm in a situation, like I'm in Rick's game, where it's role play heavy. It's we're all trying to do our best, and I've made a couple of mistakes there, but. I usually, I think my track record is like 0 or 1 mistake during those sessions, and I've had a blast. Mostly because of the combination of good role playing and good people. Each and every guy in that group, I would hang out with in the real world if I could. I really enjoy that a lot. I enjoy everybody in there. And they're all striving for the same goal, so that works. But sometimes people slip out of character and forget, or just don't give a rat's ass about the role playing, and that's unfortunate. But that's one of the things a lot of us YouTubers are trying to do is remind people or encourage people or teach people to enjoy that aspect of the hobby, because there's a lot of games out there we could play where role-playing isn't a thing. We could play war games, board games, things like that where you're not role-playing. I mean, I've made the argument otherwise where, when you're playing Monopoly, you may be kind of role-playing the part of a big tycoon trying to buy up real estate, that kind of thing. But that's kind of, your own headcanon. And, it's fun to do that. I've never tried to role-play the shoe or the terrier, but I've definitely tried to role-play the race car and the top hat, so there's that. But if I had to make a choice, between being in a game with good role players versus good people, I'm probably going to prefer to play with good people. I'm fortunate that I get to do both on various, situations in various groups where, like I mentioned, Rick's game, where I get both. I mean, it came there for the role playing, but I'm planning on staying because of the players and the GM, of course. Rick's a great GM, and there are in my circle a lot of really good role players, but there's some folks that are just they're whether it's because they've been a eternal GM for so long, or they're just getting back into the hobby, or they just were brought up, raised, whatever you want to call it, where it's not essential. I'm not going to fault them for it. I like to think that I can lead by example, and if I do something and keep doing that thing, that maybe others will appreciate it and try to emulate it. I know being a father that I've done a pretty good job with my boy doing the same thing, leading by example. He's an absolutely amazing young man, and I was blessed with the ability to be there for most of his life. And I mean, I've been retired his whole life, so I've been home every day all day for him, other than a few business trips I had to make and things like that, where I might miss a day or two, but when I come right back and I'm there, and you guys have met him. He's a great kid, and I like to think I had some small part in it. I didn't do it alone, but So my point is that if those role players out there that are big on it, lead by example, and maybe it'll catch on. I know that it does make a game more enjoyable, but to be honest, if that's what I wanted and that was all that I wanted, I'd probably just play some video games and have it all in my head, so to speak. My own head canon. I'd be role playing as I played that kind of a game, but it's a social thing for me, and for most people, I really prefer to play at a table with a bunch of great people. And when I can't do that, I'll play online with a bunch of great people and try to develop, relationships with those people. We've all talked about, meeting up. I'm gonna have a convention I'm hosting, probably late 24, early 25. So I get a chance to meet some of you great guys out there. I'm still working out the details. It's probably going to be in Texas, but it'll allow us to get to meet each other and shake hands and play some games together and further those friendships and cultivate new ones maybe. Because like I said earlier, if I had to make a choice, I'd rather be in a game with great people than great role players. I'm not a big fan of hanging out with people I just don't really get along with. I don't care if they're the best role player. They've literally got the trophy for the best role player of 2023. If they're an asshat, probably don't want to hang out with them. And we know there's some folks out there that are quite good role players, but when the role playing's over and the game is over, their opinions or values or just attitudes just don't mesh with yours. Not saying they're bad people. Kind of maybe I am, but I don't mean it really that way. If they're a good person and they're good to their family and they're whatever, but they believe things that are different than me, maybe I'm just not going to want to hang out with them just to off the table, just so that we don't get in an argument and maybe it comes to blows or something like that. Instead, I'd rather just find people that I can really get along with. So for me, I'm gonna choose good people over good role playing. Fortunately, though, I get to do a little bit of both, and I hope everybody watching this gets the same opportunities, gets to develop those relationships. Because you never know when you're just meeting people, which side of the aisle they're gonna be sitting on, and maybe you get lucky and you guys have more in common than you thought, and that's really what we should all be focusing on, is the things we have in common, not the dissimilarities, because nobody is going to be a perfect match, unless you're like husband or wife or something like that, where you fit perfectly together, and the best you can hope for is maybe a 60-40 split on opinions and whatnot. For me, those are pretty good odds, pretty good numbers, and I hope you guys fare just as well. And until next time, happy trails.